Hey everybody, Albert Leonardo here. In this video, I want to talk about split testing. At this point, you must have gathered a list of interests for you to start running your campaign. Running campaign, I divide into three phases. The first is testing, the second optimizing, and the third scaling. So testing is when you gather data, and after you gather the data, you start optimizing your campaign so that it gets the maximum ROI. After that, it's when you start scaling. The good thing with Facebook ads is that you can test with smaller budget. Now, what to test? Of course, there are a lot of components for you to test in your online marketing campaign. But in this case, I want to talk about three things to split test. The first one is offer, the second is your audience, and the third is your ad creatives. We actually have touched on split testing offer. It can be done using the PPA methods, right? Where we test our offer by surveying your audience. Now, testing audience means that you test the interest, which interest actually will get you sales, which interest actually responds to your ads. Ad creatives has to do with your copywriting and then your image. Now, let's talk about a bit mindset about testing. Of course, in running Facebook ads, we try as much as we can not to lose money, right? We try to earn the money as fast as we can. But we cannot ignore the fact that sometimes, in some cases, we have to be willing to invest money to gather data, especially if this niche is new for you. You don't know about this niche and you want to learn about them. So you need to gather data so that you can optimize better and start earning money from there. But in the beginning, you have to be willing to invest money. I'm not saying that every time I enter one niche or every time I run campaign, I have to lose money. No, but just be prepared. In some cases, you need to. Now, the second point is the more data you have, the higher chance of recognizing the winner on the significant level. This actually is related to the first point, which is you don't want to take action based on a small amount of data, right? It has to be significant enough. In order to have significant numbers, that's why you need to invest enough money to get enough data. The third one is that you actually don't need to worry about investing money into your campaign, because when you drive traffic to your website, as long as you put your pixel in your website, you are actually building pixel data at the same time. So technically, your Facebook account is learning about your niche. Now, regarding the first point, when I say this, some people are like, oh man, I have to have a lot of money to run Facebook ads. No, it's not true. That's why you learn from this course, right? Remember we talked about the targeting, why we have to understand about associated audience, and why we have to try to find a super precise interest, and why we need to understand the three types of campaign objective: when to run PPE, when to run WC ads, and when to run click to website. The reason is because if you understand all those things of what we have learned and what we will learn, you will have better opportunity in getting winning campaign in the first place. Now, what is the goal in testing? The goal in testing is to find winning audience. It can be the interest you test so that you know which interests work better. And it can be demographics. For example, you know actually female perform better or male perform better, and which age range actually is your audience. For example, interest can be we are teachers, scholastic teachers, teacher to teacher, right? A lot of interest. You don't know where your audience is. It can be here or can be here. You don't know. But the longer you are in a niche, the better you know which interests work for your niche. And the demographics, right? For a certain product, sometimes it connect better with the female, and sometimes the buyers come from the male. And the age range, sometimes the older audience respond better to your offer, and sometimes the younger audience. And sometimes the desktop perform better in some niche, and in other niche, mobile perform better. Now, the Facebook report can break down this demographics information. Let me show you an example. If you go to Facebook reports, you can actually break down the demographics by age, gender, right? You can break down by platform placement. We'll talk about this in detail in the report video, but I just want to show you for the moment. So these are some ad sets that I'm running targeting different audience. So let's say this is the first interest, or the first set of interest, the second set of interest. Right, so I'm split testing interest here, or split testing audience here. Okay, let me look into more detail for this first ad set here. I click on it. Alright, now I want to break down by gender. I want to see most of the sales coming from male or female. You see, the female is 57 and the male is 18. So the Facebook report can provide this kind of data. And then let's check the age. Okay, it can show you which age range most of the sales coming from. So you see the Facebook report provide this kind of data without me needing to split test it. So that's why in the beginning, I usually start split testing the interest instead of the demographics. Now some questions that might appear during testing is that which interest to test. We have so many interests in our list, right? So which ones to start with? Do we put one interest in one ad set or many interests in one ad set? The second question is how much is the testing budget? How much should we test? How much should we put as daily budget in one ad set? The third is how long should you test? Should you test it 1 day, 3 days, 1 week, or 3 months? Right? This is the question that we have to answer. So in order for you to be able to answer this question, there are some important points you need to know. The first is you need to know what are the factors that affect your ad performance. So Facebook ranks ads based on total value. This is a calculation that Facebook mentioned how they calculate the total value of every advertiser's campaign. So total value equals to advertiser bid times estimated action rate plus relevance and quality. The first two here is more about the advertiser side, and the third one here, relevance and quality, is more on the consumer or the user side. Alright, let's talk about advertiser bid. If you and your competitor are competing for Facebook ads placement, for example, and you bid lower than your competitor, then your competitor ads will have higher opportunity to be shown on the Facebook because he has higher opportunity in the sense of bidding. So bid actually more or less goes along with the budget in the sense that if your advertiser has higher budget, then he will get more opportunity to get his ad shown. I mean, it makes sense, right? If you are Facebook, of course you want to prioritize your consumer or your advertiser with higher budget or with more money. But the good thing is that high bidding or high budget doesn't always win because there are other factors that factor in to the total value. That's why Facebook always suggests that you bid based on your true value. Now the next factor is estimated action rate. So it depends on how likely advertisers' expected outcome will occur. So this depends on your campaign objective and your targeting, right? If you are targeting an audience with a relevant ad to them, then it is highly probably be shown to them compared to if you target to the wrong audience. So that's why a good targeting is very important in doing Facebook ads. So this is also based on what Facebook knows about your ad set, campaign, ad account, page, and targeted audience. I mean, if your account has a lot of bad history, for example, you do a lot of campaign that violate the Facebook rules, it more or less will influence on your ad performance. But the other way, if your campaign has been doing very good and your ad performance has been very good because of maybe you offer good stuff to the audience or your ad creative is so good and Facebook know that, then you will have a higher value here. Relevance and quality, this is more to maximize consumer experience because Facebook always emphasize on good user experience. So you have to make sure that your offer and your ad copy and image are relevant to your audience. Right? If there are a lot of negative feedback, for example, a lot of people hiding your ad, that it indicates to Facebook that your ad might not bring a good user experience. So it will influence your ad and give bad score to it, which in turn will affect your total value. So the point is that the ad with highest total value wins the auction. Now the second one, it actually relates to the first one. The higher bid or higher budget will get more qualified traffic. So if you bid for $50 compared to if you bid for $5, you will get more qualified traffic by bidding higher. So the question is, do you need to test with high budget? No, I always test low. Test low means test with low budget, and then once you have a winning campaign, then you scale with high budget. And I will show you how to run testing using low budget. Next, you need to understand AND and OR logic. So example, interest 1 contains audience A, B, C, D, E, F, G, right? Let's picture this as Mr. A, Mr. B, Mr. C, and interest 2 contains C, D, G, H, I, and so on. Now, if you want to draw it into Venn diagram, then this is it, right? There is intersection between each interest. So for example, C and D is actually intersection of interest 1, 2, and 3 because C and D is in every of the interests here. Like G is in interest 1 and 2. Alright, so what I mean by interest 1 and interest 2 means that you take people who are in interest 1 and in interest 2, which are G, C, and D. But if I say interest 1 or interest 2, it means that you take all the people that are either in interest 1 or in interest 2. So you take all of them. So this is how we do it on Facebook ads. Example of OR logic is when we put two interests here. For example, we are teachers and scholastic teachers. It means that we take all the people that are either in scholastic teachers or in We Are Teachers. You will see that the number of potential reach will increase, right? Okay. But if you narrow audience, this is AND logic. AND logic. Check this out. So We Are Teachers, there are 680,000 potential reach. But once we put scholastic teacher here, it goes down to 110. Why? Because we are telling Facebook that we want audience that are not only in We Are Teachers but also in scholastic teachers. So the people we choose must be in two of them, right? This is the AND logic. So you might be able to see here that if you run AND logic using two interests, this audience will be a very targeted one, right? Because instead of being in one interest, they are in two interests at the same time. Imagine if you run narrow audience, not only two interests but 3 or 4 interests. That will be a very targeted audience. Like this one, like C and D are in these 3 interests. So C and D is a very targeted audience. You also need to understand exclude. For example, if interest 1 exclude interest 2, it means that you want to help people in interest 1, but if they are in interest 2, you don't want them. You exclude them. So in this case, the audience that you want here is A, B, F, and E only. So the way we do in Facebook ads is, for example, we want to exclude scholastic teacher. So we want people in We Are Teachers but want to exclude them who are in scholastic teacher. This is exclusion. The next one is try to minimize audience overlap. Audience overlap means this. So let's say you run an ads, right? The first ad set you targeting interest 1, and the second ad set you target interest 2. So you have 2 ad sets running at the same time. So your 2 ad sets might have audience overlap because they are C and D here, Right? This is called audience overlap. You're potentially showing different ads to the same people. So Facebook said that this is not necessarily a bad thing, but because the ad option tries to avoid showing people too many ads from a single advertiser, which is you, in a short period of time, audience overlap can explain why some of those ad sets may not be spending their full budget. Alright, so you want to try to minimize audience overlap. The solution is that you don't use one ad set, one interest, but instead you use one ad set with many interests. And the second is using exclusion. I will show you in the next video. And the next one is Facebook needs time to optimize a campaign. It usually takes 2 to 3 days after you're changing the budget. So don't make decisions based on 1 day data. For example, if you just run an ad and then the next day you don't see any results, you want to kill the campaign. It's not how it works, right? Facebook needs time to optimize, to understand what your campaign wants, to understand which audience you want to reach. So let Facebook run for minimum 2 to 3 days. Right, the longer the test you take, the more significant the data is, right? For example, 1 week data of course is better than 3 days data. A 4 weeks data is better than 1 week data. But it doesn't mean that you have to have 1 year data, right? So it actually depends on the project that you are running. I would suggest that minimum is 2 to 3 days, but 1 week would be good. Right? For example, okay, if you run ads for just 2 days, for example, Monday and Tuesday, and you don't see any sales, it might be because it's the beginning of weekday, right? What if you run the ads for 7 days and they actually buys on weekend, right? If you only run your ads for 2 days, you will never know that, right? The next one is know which campaign objectives to run. We have discussed this in previous video, which is to know the stage of your current situation, whether you want to do product survey, you want to drive traffic directly to your website, or whether you are now having collected enough pixel, you want to run directly WC ads. And the audience size per ad set. I usually run PPE ads on the size of 100K to 500K, and for CTW 500 to 1000K, and WC is 1 million above. This is not a fixed rule. This is just how I have been doing it. But if you look at this actually makes sense, right? We know that it's easier to find engagers. So with small audience, you can have result. But with converters, which is less than the number of engagers, you need to provide Facebook with a potential reach of 1 million above so that it's easier for Facebook to find one for you. And the next one is you prioritize which audience to test first. We always start testing with a super precise interest because this is the most targeted one. Once you get result and you want to expand your audience, you can do associated interest. Then the next one is broad interest. Alright, so the next video we'll be talking about how to do the testing. See you in the next video.